Can't you just do it right for once? What was the point of us getting married if it's going to be like this? There's no need to talk like that. I've reached my breaking point. And yet, there had never been any problems before. I can't help but wonder if this change is hiding something, considering how things were even before we got married. Breaking point? Mom used to handle things so much better. Why can't you do the same? Excuse me? Why don't you do it yourself then? You can clean, can't you? After all, I am. Before I could finish, my husband started talking over me. You're my wife. You're supposed to do these things. Mom never complained. How old are you, really? It's frustrating when every little thing is about mom. It makes my blood boil even more when talking about his mother somehow makes him seem more childish. If he misses his mom that much, he might as well live with her. But his unreasonable behavior didn't stop. Hey! How many times do I have to tell you? This seasoning is a joke. Mom would have known my favorite flavor. I glared at my husband. What are you glaring at? This is your fault. Saying that, he flipped the plate in front of him. It was as if he'd flipped a table, making a mess all over. Really, how much do you love her? Indeed, his mother was kind to everyone and supported my father-in-law in a way that I admired. But she had her strict side too. That's why I couldn't imagine her spoiling my husband like this. I wonder if it's different when I'm not around? There are many questions, but right now, I need to deal with this situation. I can't eat this, I'm going out to eat. That's all he said before leaving. Left alone, I cleaned up the table messed up by my husband. He continues to do nothing yet acts all high and mighty. If this keeps up, my mental health will deteriorate. Being pregnant, I didn't want any of this to affect my unborn child. That was something I absolutely wanted to avoid. And then, when I was in my final month of pregnancy, I found someone better than you, so let's get a divorce. I never thought my husband would say something like that. However, it was nothing but a relief for me. I'll do as you say. You're surprisingly obedient. Then sign this divorce paper quickly. At that moment, I wasn't the least bit interested in his affairs. Once the divorce was finalized, I immediately contacted my father. 2 days after the divorce, my husband came to visit. Hey! Long time no see. What are you doing here? You don't have any business with me anymore. I thought I'd introduce you out of goodwill, as your ex-husband. Look! Cute wife, huh? There's a world of difference between her and you, stuck doing menial tasks at the office. I recognized the face of his new partner. What? By the way, which company does she work as a receptionist for? Come to think of it, I remember my dad mentioning that a new receptionist had started. My husband doesn't know. He doesn't know that my father is an executive at his company. And that I had already taken action. It seems my husband realized something at this point. Father! Wait, your maiden name was... No, it couldn't be. He wasn't that stupid after all. Afterward, my husband started panicking and screaming like he'd gone mad. He was on a fast track to hell. A very deep hole, from which if he fell, he would never climb out. My revenge was just beginning. I am Harper, working at a local company. Originally, I was at a company where my father was an executive, but I decided to change jobs because I wanted to get involved with design. I had no idea you were interested in design. I just really wanted to learn. Even though Dad had introduced me. No, that's fine. It's best to do what you want to. Just don't do it halfway. Okay. I thought I would be opposed at first, but that wasn't the case. There was another reason, too. I wanted to try living on my own, away from my parents' home. So, I chose a company a bit far from my parents' house. I guess I can't tell Dad that. Having moved to a new city, I started exploring right away. I had always enjoyed visiting different cafes. This place has a great vibe. Just my style. This is how I would later meet Oliver, who would become my husband. I used to visit this cafe about 3 days a week. There, I encountered a certain situation. Is that? At that time, Oliver had a brochure from the company I worked for. Is something wrong? Oh. Sorry for the suddenness. That brochure is from my company, so... Oh, I see. I was actually about to go there for a sales visit. Afterward, I guided Oliver to my company. Thank you for today. Not at all. I was just doing what's expected. By the way, do you come to that cafe often? Yes. It's my favorite place. Is that so? Then, see you around. Yes. Oliver left with a meaningful look. We met again 3 days later. Hello. thanks for the other day. Hello. What brings you here today? I wanted to say thanks for last time. You don't need to thank me for that. I've grown to like this cafe too. Let me treat you this time. And so, we ended up chatting at the same table. Oliver was cheerful, and talking to him felt really comfortable. We didn't make any specific plans to meet, but we ended up seeing each other often. Whenever I had some free time, I somehow found myself heading to this place. After about 2 months of this lifestyle, Oliver confessed to me, and I accepted. Looking forward to our time together. Me too. Sometime after we started dating, my sister Camila came to visit. Hey sis, surprise! You could have at least told me you were coming. Come on. Your cute sister came all the way to see you. So, how's life here? It's been fun. Really? So, any boyfriend? Boyfriend, huh? Then my sister started grinning at me. What? It looks like you've got yourself a boyfriend. Eh? How can you tell? Because you've been smiling nonstop. Eh? Really? That reaction pretty much confirms it. Ah. I didn't realize it was that obvious. No one had ever pointed it out before. Maybe I was just too caught up in the moment. Later, I married Oliver when I was 27. It was during the meeting of both families. Ah. What? What is it? No, it's just that Oliver's dad. I thought he looked familiar because he used to work under me. Really? Do they know that? I'm not sure, we didn't work together for very long. But you remembered him well. Well, there were various reasons. At that time, I didn't understand why my dad looked a bit displeased. However, I would come to personally understand the meaning of that look later on. Can I ask you something? Yeah, sure. Did Harper know my dad? Why do you ask? Just, it seemed a bit awkward. I thought maybe. Probably just your imagination. Is that so? I thought to myself, Oliver really pays close attention to people. From what I've heard, it seems my dad had also noticed Oliver's father. This is how our married life began, but gradually, Oliver started showing his true colors. Where's dinner? Sorry, I got caught up with work and it's not ready yet. Oliver sighed heavily. I'm tired from work. I'm counting on you to at least have dinner ready. I'll be more careful from now on. I really hope so. Get it ready quickly, will you? I will, right away. It wasn't just about meals, he started to comment on household chores as well. At first, I thought I was also to blame and followed Oliver's requests. Although his complaints increased, he remained kind otherwise, so I wasn't too worried. However, things started to deteriorate further when Oliver mentioned he was thinking of changing jobs. I'm thinking about changing jobs. What? A job change? Why? I've gotten a bit bored with my current job. Plus, the salary is better than what I'm getting now, so it makes no sense not to change. I suppose, but... Anyway, I've already decided. About a month later, Oliver made the job switch. I didn't ask for details, but it seemed he was still in sales. Then, there was today, when I came home late from overtime. I'm home. Finally. I'm starving. I'll get dinner ready right away. I cooked and set the table. Sorry for the wait. Finally. But when Oliver was about to take a bite, he froze, staring at the food. What's wrong? It's just not what I was expecting. What do you mean? Never mind. I'll eat out today. Wait a minute. Can you clean this up? I didn't miss the mutter he let out. Mom wouldn't have done it like this. What did you just say? What do you mean? You said mom, didn't you? I would never say that. Drop it. Saying that, Oliver left, thinking over his words. Could he be a mama's boy? But it's the first time I've heard something like that. Maybe I misheard. With these thoughts, I ate dinner alone. Even though I had lived by myself before, being alone felt unusually lonely. Initially, I reluctantly went along with Oliver's whims, but his demands escalated day by day. Where's my jacket? I haven't seen it. My jacket. Didn't I tell you to get it cleaned the other day? You didn't tell me that. What am I supposed to do now? I have an important business meeting today. Well, it's not like I can do anything about that. I didn't think you could be so useless. You're not a kid, you can take care of that yourself. A wife is supposed to do these things, right? Not at all. After that, we had a big argument. Why do we have to fight about such things early in the morning? From then on, Oliver would start yelling whenever things didn't go his way. It was becoming more extreme than ever before. I realized he never did any housework nor helped me with anything. He used to be so kind before we got married. At home, he would just sit on the sofa, scrolling through his phone. He only talked to me when he needed something. This was no longer what you would call a marriage. Even I started to feel sick of living this way. And it hasn't even been a year since we got married. That's why I came up with a plan. One night, I said, "If you make one more ridiculous remark, I'm leaving this house." Leaving? Yes. I've already decided. If you do that, you're the one who's going to suffer. Laughing, that's what Oliver said. At that moment, I made up my mind. The next day was Saturday, so I left the house while Oliver was still asleep. Of course, I headed to my parents' house. Huh? Why is my sister here? Well, I've had some issues. Issues? I explained everything to my sister Camila. Really? I wouldn't lie about this. But it's surprising. He didn't seem like that type. People aren't always what they seem. Is that so? But he looked pretty cool. Indeed, my sister had a point. But that's because she hasn't lived with him. Anyway, marriage is hard. After that, I talked to my parents and decided to stay at their house for a while. I can't believe Oliver turned out to be that kind of man. People aren't always what they seem? Yeah. That's what my sister said too. Is that so? I thought my dad would be more upset, but he seemed surprisingly indifferent. Aren't you mad? Huh? No need to get mad about it. Besides, family is family. What do you mean by that? You'll understand eventually. My dad never tells me much. It had been about a week since I stayed at my parents' house. Until then, I hadn't received any contact from Oliver. It happened one Sunday afternoon. Hello? When I opened the door, there stood my mother-in-law. What brings you here? It's about Oliver. Please, come in. I led my mother-in-law to the living room. Then, she suddenly bowed her head. I'm really sorry for the trouble this time. No, it's not your fault at all. But how did you find out? I came to give you a souvenir from our trip. And that's when you heard? Harper was usually there, but she wasn't this time. And did Oliver say anything? Yes. He seems to regret what happened this time. But he said it's hard to face you or something like that. Is he a child or what? I couldn't believe he'd go to his mom for something like this. Considering his previous comments about mom, the mama's boy theory seemed all the more likely. Also, he seemed really down. Like he can't do anything without Harper. While we were talking, the doorbell rang. It was Oliver standing there. I can't manage without Harper. Can you come back? Just what my mother-in-law and I were talking about. Well, your mom's here too. Oh, right. He clearly didn't seem thrilled. I was surprised. If he really was a mama's boy, wouldn't he be happy about the situation? So, I led Oliver to where his mother was. Why are you here? Well, just... If you were coming, you could have told me. I couldn't decide. I've been hesitating. Well, all right. But surely you have more to say to Harper, right? I get it. Oliver took a breath and looked at me intently. What? I'm really sorry. I hadn't been considering Harper's feelings properly. Oliver seemed unusually serious. His face didn't look like he was lying this time. If you're going to say that, I understand. I'll come back. Really? He was obviously delighted. Seeing his reaction, my mother-in-law sighed. Really? How superficial. For now, I need to talk to my parents, so I'll be returning home tomorrow, I think. Got it. I'll be waiting at home then. Then you go ahead. Eh? Is that okay? All right. Saying that, Oliver reluctantly went back home. I wonder why he turned out this way. Is it my husband's fault? My father-in-law? Yes. When my husband was about Oliver's age. Just then, my parents returned from shopping, whether the timing was good or bad. Well. I'm sorry for the sudden intrusion. I'll be leaving soon. Since you're here, please stay a bit longer. With my parents joining us, my mother-in-law explained again why she came. So, Harper decided to go back? Yes. I've decided to give Oliver another chance. After all, we are married. If that's Harper's decision, then it's the right one. Yeah. Well, I should be going. I've stayed too long. Understood. Please do come again. After my mother-in-law left, I was still curious about what she was about to say, so I decided to ask my father. I have something I want to ask. If I can answer it. What kind of person was Oliver's father? That's quite sudden. No, we were just talking about it earlier, but then you guys came back. He was just a superior and subordinate to me, not very close. But he was a problematic person. Problematic? What do you mean? Well, just between us, it seems he was having an affair with an employee while at our company. Eh? You said he quit the company before, is that why? Yes, and the employee was quite troublesome. My father also looked troubled. Then, was my mother-in-law trying to talk about that earlier? It was supposed to be dealt with internally, so she shouldn't know. But maybe she realized. A new question arose. If my mother-in-law wanted to talk about my father-in-law's affair, the story didn't quite add up. I can't imagine him cheating, but maybe I should ask her next time we meet. Despite the lingering doubts, I decided to leave my parents' house the next day. You're leaving already? Yeah. Oliver must be waiting. All right then. Take care. After several weeks, I returned home. I'm back. Coming home, I was immediately surprised. My mother-in-law had said Oliver couldn't do anything, so I expected the house to be a mess. Welcome back. I've been waiting for you. Yeah. Surprised that the house is clean, aren't you? Well, I heard you couldn't do anything by yourself. I couldn't bother you any further. I see. Hearing Oliver's words, I felt somewhat happy. Then, Oliver stopped mentioning Mom as frequently as he used to. I thought our peaceful daily life would resume. However, everything changed again when I found out I was pregnant. It happened about half a year after we returned to our two-person life. My pregnancy was discovered. I thought this would bring even more happiness. As if to prove it, Oliver started helping out without being asked. It was about 3 months after the pregnancy was confirmed. Really? One night, Oliver received a call from my mother-in-law. He handed me the phone with a gloomy face. Yes, it was so sudden. A heart attack. And just when we were expecting a grandchild. Overwhelmed by the sudden news, I found myself at a loss for words. Where are you now? At the hospital. Understood. We'll head there immediately. After hanging up, I hurried to prepare for leaving. Oliver was slumped on the sofa. We're going to the hospital now, so get ready. Yes. Right. Supporting a shaky Oliver, we headed to the hospital. I wasn't very close to my father-in-law. But I still felt sad. After all, he was Oliver's father. I'm sorry for making you come here. Don't be. You were the one going through a tough time, not me. It seems my father-in-law had been hiding his poor health for a while. And had been secretly visiting the hospital alone. But why? He was someone who had trouble asking others for help. But dying doesn't solve anything. My father-in-law's funeral was held with only close family members, and after that, my mother-in-law lost her energy. Concerned, I began visiting my in-laws regularly. You came again today. Thank you. I also bought your favorite Japanese sweets. That makes me happy. Seeing her smile again was a relief. Talking with my mother-in-law somehow made me feel calmer too. Then, around 6 months into my pregnancy, a problem arose. Oliver's outbursts began again. What is this? What? What happened? This. This here. Oliver was pointing at a pile of folded laundry. What about it? What's with this folding? It's normal, isn't it? Mom never folded like this. Do it over. What do you mean by that? Then, the old nightmare started again. I thought I might have to leave again, so I decided to talk to my mother-in-law. I'm sorry for coming over so suddenly. That's all right. Don't worry about it. Come in. I took a sip of the tea she offered to calm down. As I was thinking about how to explain, my mother-in-law spoke first. Is it about Oliver? Yes. He's done something again, hasn't he? What happened this time? Actually, it's something that's been happening for a while. I explained Oliver's tendency towards being a mama's boy. Oliver? A mama's boy? That's impossible. If anything, I'm the one who should be saying no thanks. Really? Feeling like a weight had been lifted off my chest. Did you realize it was a lie? I thought it might not be completely out of the question, but it was so sudden. My mother-in-law seemed to be thinking about something. Then I remembered. Something I meant to tell you before. It was about my father-in-law, a topic that had been left unresolved at my parents' house. About my father-in-law? Yes. Your words made me remember. My husband had a phase when he did similar things, right before he quit his job. What happened then? Like Harper, I went to talk to my mother-in-law. I heard the reason my father-in-law quit his job was an affair. I decided to directly ask my mother-in-law. Do you know why he quit his job? Oh, that. Of course. He had an affair with a younger woman at his company, right? You knew? Yeah, I kept quiet and squeezed a pretty penny out of that woman as compensation. Oh, and I just remembered, Oliver works at the same company as Harper's father, doesn't he? This was news to me. You didn't know? No. Thinking that Oliver might be doing the same thing as his father was alarming. Just out of curiosity, why did my father-in-law do it? Probably because he didn't want the affair to get out. He had a tendency to leave whenever he was unhappy. I guess he used that as an excuse to meet his mistress. That sounds just like Oliver now. I muttered. You don't have to hold back. Eh? I didn't want him to be that similar, but I'm on Harper's side. Mother-in-law. I had to fight back tears. You should do what you think is right. Yes. This conversation happened 3 days later at night. Can't you just do it right for once? What was the point of us getting married if it's going to be like this? There's no need to talk like that. I've reached my breaking point. And yet, there had never been any problems before. I can't help but wonder if this change is hiding something, considering how things were even before we got married. Breaking point? Mom used to handle things so much better. Why can't you do the same? Excuse me? Why don't you do it yourself then? You can clean, can't you? After all, I am. Before I could finish, my husband started talking over me. You're my wife. You're supposed to do these things. Mom never complained. How old are you, really? It's frustrating when every little thing is about mom. It makes my blood boil even more when talking about his mother somehow makes him seem more childish. If he misses his mom that much, he might as well live with her. But his unreasonable behavior didn't stop. Hey! How many times do I have to tell you? This seasoning is a joke. Mom would have known my favorite flavor. I glared at Oliver. What are you glaring at? This is your fault. Saying that, he flipped the plate in front of him. It was as if he'd flipped a table, making a mess all over. Really, how much do you love her? Indeed, his mother was kind to everyone and supported my father-in-law in a way that I admired. But she had her strict side too. That's why I couldn't imagine such a mother-in-law spoiling Oliver. I wonder if that's how it is when I'm not around. There are many questions, but right now, I need to deal with this situation. I can't eat this, so I'm going out to eat. Oliver said that and left. Left behind, I cleaned up the table messed up by my husband. Even though he does nothing, his attitude is full size. If this continues, my mental health will deteriorate. Being pregnant, I didn't want any of this to affect my unborn child. That was something I absolutely wanted to avoid. And then, when I was in my final month of pregnancy, I found someone better than you, so let's get a divorce. I never thought my husband would say something like that. However, it was nothing but a relief for me. I'll do as you say. You're surprisingly obedient. Then quickly sign this divorce paper. At that moment, I wasn't the least bit interested in his affairs. After signing the divorce papers, I moved to my parents' house. In addition, I received about $50,000 in alimony and child support in one lump sum. Oliver must be satisfied now that he's cut ties with me. Of course, it was a strategy, but once the divorce was finalized, I immediately contacted my father. I have something I want to ask. What is it? Oliver works at your company, right? Huh? Was that so? I thought you didn't know. I don't know all the employees. There's something I'd like you to look into. So, I asked my father for a favor. Come to think of it, there was talk about a new employee who just joined. I think she was at the reception. Hearing that, I had a hunch. Anyway, please look into that person. Got it. Leave it to me. 2 days after the divorce, my husband came to visit. Hey! Long time no see. What are you doing here? You have no business with me anymore. I thought I'd introduce you as a favor from your ex-husband. Look. She's a cute wife, right? A world of difference from you, a mere paper pusher. I recognized the face of his new partner. It must have been when I delivered something to my father at his request. Ah. What? By the way, which company does she work as a receptionist for? Come to think of it, my dad mentioned that a new receptionist had started. Oliver didn't know that my father is an executive at Oliver's company, and that I had already set things in motion. It seemed my husband realized something then. Father? Wait, your maiden name was… No, that can't be. And how did you know she was a receptionist? He wasn't that foolish after all. After that, my husband began to panic and started shouting like he had gone mad. What's with the rush? Maiden name? You've been deceiving me? You finally noticed. Your company's executive, that's me. Well, it's too late now anyway. Then my father came from the back. Father-in-law. You've done quite the thing, haven't you? That is, but we're already divorced. So? Eh? The relationship started before the divorce, didn't it? It doesn't change the fact you made my daughter sad. So, I've already talked to HR. That means… By now, the CEO probably knows, and it's only a matter of time before you're fired. Oliver was pale as a ghost. At this point, no one could stop what was coming. Now you understand. You better find a new job quickly with your cute wife. Being fired means being unemployed. Well, that's more convenient for me. After all, I can show him hell. Maybe I should ask my mom for help. That's not going to work. I've already talked to her about Oliver, and she gave me the go-ahead to do as I please. What? So, my mother-in-law is on my side. It's all pointless. Got it? Now please disappear somewhere. Feeling hopeless, he reluctantly left. I might never forget the look of utter defeat on his face. Oliver had left, but there was still something I had to do. I had completely forgotten, but the house Oliver and his new wife were living in was originally contracted by me. Which means… A few days later, Oliver called. What do you want now? You! What have you done while we were gone? Well, it was originally the house I rented. You can just rent a new one yourself. There's no way I can do that. I haven't even found a job yet. That's not my problem. You have a good idea there. Why not ask your mother-in-law for help? I tried that. But just like you said, I wasn't even allowed in the house. Oh, that's too bad. Are you the one to say that? If that's all you wanted to talk about, I'm hanging up now. I'm busy too. Hey! The conversation isn't over yet. Ignoring Oliver's words, I hung up the phone. Immediately after, I called my mother-in-law. Harper, I understand what you want to say. It's about Oliver, right? You see right through me. Don't worry about that. He hasn't set foot in the house. Thank you. And to think he left you for that young girl and remarried. I'm speechless. Later, I heard through the grapevine that Oliver and his new wife still haven't found jobs. They're staying at her parents' house but are being treated as a nuisance. As for me, I recently gave birth to a healthy boy. From now on, I'll live my life thinking only of this child. I will never let him become like Oliver.